everyone back to another edition of the On the Wagon podcast, sobriety podcast with a shot of comedy for you, for those of you, I should say, who have not been listening. This is episode 7. We are recording here Monday afternoon, March 9th, here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Rainy, gloomy day today, but it's a little warm. Or warmer, I should say, for this time of year. So for people who are following me that are not from Wisconsin, this is actually not too bad of a day, just no sun. Today, we're going to dive into my stories of when I tried to get sober. I've had 2 failed attempts, which a lot of people with this addiction and alcoholism have done in the past. Probably had multiple failed attempts. Both times I tried them, the first time I tried them, we'll get into, didn't take it as seriously as I probably should have, and the last time I actually had a pretty serious, thought process, but it just did not last, and I got myself into a situation where drinking is the norm, and we'll get into those 2 stories today. But before we get into it, since the last podcast, all of our episodes are now on iTunes, so go ahead and search us on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review, please. That's going to help get more traction on the podcast, and I can start reaching out to bigger, names in the world for just to want to tell their stories as well. And also follow me on Instagram. I don't do too much on it right now. I try to post something every day, some inspirational stuff, but Instagram's the way to go to promote my podcast. So anybody that wants to do that for me, that'd be awesome. We are looking into some different kinds of merchandise down the road here to try to promote the program as well. I definitely want to get some kind of cool hat for the summer, hats to wear in the summer. Maybe do a couple of tees, and then maybe next fall I'll get into some hoodies. So that's where we're at right now. Today's episode, I am going to talk about my failed attempts at getting sober. So let's start with the first one. So the first one, I haven't told the funny story yet how this led into me trying to get sober, but it was in 2014. This was a few days prior to New Year's Day, so I guess it started in 2013, but it was so close to 2014 that we just kind of lumped some of that in there. We'll go over that story at another time. Made a decision to say that I got to make a change or get some help with this issue. So 2014, I'm trying to think how old I was, probably 26, 27. Was really struggling. We lived downtown, where there was, 15 bars in walking distance. So that, even though it was fun living downtown, that turned out to be a kind of a struggle for me. But anyways, so we'll get into that story of how it pushed me into this first road of sobriety. But the first time, it was the day after coming off. It was a bender, put it that way. I really was feeling bad about myself. Really had some bad anxiety. I actually left my house or my apartment that day and went back home and spoke with my family and just said, "Hey, this is where I'm at. I got to figure out something." My family agreed. So what I did is, got back stuff back in together. Extremely was hungover that day, I remember, but this is where I'm like, okay, I gotta fix something now. Ended up attending my first AA meeting that night. So I remember it was a Monday night. Attended that here in Oshkosh. It opened my eyes that I wasn't the only one, suffering from this. And the next couple days I continued to go to meetings. So I went to AA meetings for about a week straight, I would say. But the problem was it was leading up to New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Now, New Year's Eve was like a Super Bowl for me because everybody was drinking and I could go extra hard. I remember I made a joke on Twitter this year that one New Year's Eve I started drinking at 2 p.m. at a bar. Usually the bars have their big, New Year's parties starting at like 9:30. I started at 2 with a group of friends. And didn't get home until 4:30 in the morning. So that was an incredible drinking day. But that was in my younger years, before this alcoholism really took over parts of my life, if not the entire life, at some points with my binge drinking issues. But going back, so anyway, so I was really worried about, okay, how am I going to tell my friends? How am I going to tell everybody that I'm not going out? Do I need to make up a lie? Should I tell them I'm sick? I don't remember what I told people that day. I remember going to an AA meeting on New Year's Eve, and I remember a lot of people reaching out because they knew I was new to the, to the meetings, and they said, "Hey, if you're struggling tonight, call numbers I had, and we just don't go out tonight. It's not worth it." So it's what I did. The best thing I could is go back home for that night, right? I think I told some of my buddies, "Hey, I got something going on the next day. I'm not going out." Ended up staying over at my mom's house that night. Worked out good because there was a ton of basketball on. I remember watching a bunch of college hoops that night, so that was fine. Didn't miss out. I remember I was in bed by like 10 p.m. and just I was getting, my phone was blowing up. "Hey, where are you at? Where are you at? What's going on?" And then I was sleeping before even midnight. So from there on, I didn't drink for about, I think I was at 62 days. I think I was, or 61 days. Started feeling better. My job was, starting to, usually the job I was currently at, that it was really slow times of the year, like January, February, March. So it wasn't so much hustle and bustle, but I remember, man, I'm getting a lot of stuff done. I'm feeling good. I was coaching at that time. Things were going good for those 60 days. But then the peer pressure, there was a lot of peer pressure, like, oh, I got to go out, let's go out tonight. I wasn't seeing anyone at the time, so I was single. So those things kind of started building up, and it was just really hard to stay sober. So I remember going to a Bucks game with a few friends, and I just decided, you know what, I've been sober 60 days. I'm going to have a couple beers at the Bucks game, and I was fine. I had a couple beers, and ate, and had a good time, and caught a little buzz, and on the way home, I'm like, you know what, let's go to a bar when we get back into Oshkosh. So that's what we did. We went to a bar and continued drinking, I think, casual beers. Didn't get didn't get drunk as I usually do. Didn't black out. Just had a good night. I think we probably got home by 1 in the morning or something, which was nothing compared to what we were usually doing. And felt fine the next day and didn't think anything of it. But now looking back at it and reconvening of what happened, that was just a wheel turn. It might have not been that full wheel turn like you're back into it, but then now the brakes start coming off, and then I was back into the same thing we always had. Coming into March, we'd always go out to the bars 3-4 days a week for the NCAA tournament games. Started going to Las Vegas. All these things just started escalating just because of that. So that was about 63 days, I think, or 62 days. I can't remember. But yeah, I stopped going to AA meetings after that, and the wheels just kind of fell off, and I was right back to where I was. Now fast forward to, I think 2 years ago. This was either 2018. Yeah, 2018 this must have been. I remember I had not, we had kind of the thing that, pushed us all along the second time. My binge drinking stopped kind of, meaning where I would go maybe 2 weeks without doing it, or go a full week, drink on a Saturday, take a full week off, and then the next following weekend. So yeah, 2 weeks. So just to do it again. So I was basically drinking maybe 2 to 3 times very heavily a month at this point. So really, combated what I was going from 2 to 3 times a week to 2 to 3 times a month. But now the blackouts were starting to come into play, and now these other things that were, I wasn't being able to handle my alcohol. My body was rejecting the alcohol a lot faster. Anyways, I remember going, played in a charity 3-on-3 tournament. I was drinking at this point. Ended up started to drink that day. Drank all night after the tournament. Ended up, went out to eat at a bar, ate. My friend goes home at probably like 8:30. This is a summer night. Jenny's not home at the time, so it's just me the whole weekend. I decide that I'm not going to just stay home. I'm feeling really good. I don't know anybody that's out, but I'll find somebody that's out. So this was the first time that this has kind of happened in a while. Ended up getting an Uber at about 9 o'clock and going downtown and sitting at a couple bars by myself, and ended up blacking out kind of downtown by myself. Got home, no issues, but this is kind of spiraling out of control again. Going back to think about it now, it's like, what was I doing at these bars? Even though I knew people down there, I knew bartenders, I knew the bar owners, but I didn't go out with a purpose of hanging out with anybody. I went out with a purpose to continue drinking. Like I said, just who knows what happened that night. Nothing bad, but like, I don't know who I saw, I don't know who I talked to, but that kind of started to say, okay, something's got to change here again. Didn't drink for over 30 days this next time. Didn't go to any meetings, but just said, I got to stop with this. Ended up going to the Packer game when they beat the Bears on Sunday night, and just got really drunk that night again too. Nothing bad happened. Didn't drive home, but just drank a lot all day, and that's kind of how it started turning again. So the second time here, it was just something as simple as going to a football game. But the Packers won in a crazy fashion. Instead of going home, we went to a bar afterwards and partied until 1 in the morning. Didn't get back to Oshkosh till 2:30. Got up and went to work next day. I think I made it till about noon that day, and I was incredibly sick this time. So if you don't drink for a while, and then over drink, it's just not pretty. I remember I was sick for a few days after that, but something real simple as a Packer game or a 3-on-3 charity basketball tournament. I mean, this is where I know now that like what is a trigger for me. Well, it's anything where it's social and there's drinking. I mean, that's really what is it. I love being around people and talking and hanging out with a lot of laughs and friends. And if there's alcohol involved, that's a big trigger for me. And I can always, and me personally having this problem, I talk myself into, well, everybody's doing it. This is a Packer game. Everybody's got to drink before the game. Or, oh, we have a 3-on-3 tournament here. It's $20 for all you can drink. It's for a charity. Like, I could have just donated $20 and still had a good time. You know what I mean? There's always an excuse for me. And that took me a long, long time to figure out that, okay, it's not just the alcohol. It's you. It's me. It's my thinking, my mindset, things like that. So those were the 2 times that I seriously took, getting sober. And drying out, because there was a time there, not so much this last time in 2018, but really in 2014. I mean, I was on a dangerous path, and a lot of the stories came from that time. Living downtown post college years, it's like, man, like I'm just blessed that nothing too bad happened, and my body is okay now, and I'm trying to reheal everything that the damage I put on my liver and brain. Today being sober, and now we're coming up. I don't even know. November 1st is my sobriety date. So we're a few months along. I got a few chips in my bank. If you could say, for people who aren't know, for AA you get a 24-hour chip, which was easy for me, obviously, because I didn't require to drink every day, and my body didn't need it. But then it's a month chip, and then it goes to a 3-month chip, and a 6-month chip. So I'm working to get that 6-month chip right now. So that would be, let's see, November, December, January, February, March. So April. Once it's through April, I can get that 6-month chip of 6 full months being being sober. So really cool on that. So today was kind of a little shorter podcast. I really, last week I can't, explain this or say this about Aaron, who came on last week. Come from a really tough background, and for him to be that open about his story was really incredible. And that's really what I want to get other people on this podcast, because it not everybody hears these stories. Until I started researching and listening to AA speaker meetings and watching YouTube videos and watching documentaries, like, you don't really realize what a lot of people are going through, because people hide alcoholism a lot. I mean, how many people, a lot of people knew that I loved to drink and loved to party and loved to, sometimes was out of control, but I don't think people realize the backstory of, okay, what happens after that? The depressing mornings, the anxiety, the hangovers, the missing work, the missing family functions, just people don't see that side of it too much, because people tend to hide from that. And I did that for a lot of years, and this podcast has helped me get my story and word out, and to have a few laughs with it. That's what it's all about for me. So that is this week's episode, a short 15-minute one. Remember, I do have a YouTube page out. Right now, my YouTube page just consists of the podcast being put onto YouTube. But Spotify, I'll get you those links. The service I went with promotes it on the radio app as well. So if you have that or Spotify, just get downloads out there, get the word out, get the podcast out. It's a fun podcast for me, and this has been the biggest extreme help for me, knowing that now people know about what I'm going through and what I'm doing and where I'm going. So I'm so blessed and thankful for that. It's just been an incredible journey so far, and I can't wait to see where the future goes for this. So that is this week's pod. For all you basketball fans and out there, March Madness is here. My other fun sports podcast that's been going on for 3 years. Check out the This Is D-Span Facebook page. I will post my video pods there. I do that one on video pods only. But for this one, we're going to keep rolling on iTunes and getting these downloads up and see what happens and where we go from here. So if you're interested, if you're listening for the first time, go ahead and contact me. I have my information on my Instagram. If you want to be on the show, I have a full Google form that you can fill out, kind of get to know you a little better, and then we'll schedule a time and come on the podcast. It could be a half hour to 45 minutes. Hear your story and talk some war stories of drinking with you, and it'd be a great time to promote each other. If you have a podcast, or just if you want to boost your social media up a little bit, or if you just want to do it just to help people like I am. Feel free to reach out to me. So that is it. On the Wagon Podcast, episode 7, March 9th, 2020. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.